Well, good morning and welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder, and this is BRN AM for Wednesday, February 19th, 2020. And here's our top story: financial wellness, the evolution and development of managed account services. And joining me now to discuss this and more, Vern Cushenberry. He's the Chief Investment Officer and Managing Member for Two West Advisors. Vern, thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Hey, great to see you, Jeff, and thanks for hosting us. You guys do great work at the Broadcast Retirement Network. Just absolutely phenomenal. How do you stay on top of everything that's changing in our industry from day to day?
You know, it's tough, but we got a great team of people, and there's certainly a lot to keep track of, but, you know, you got to have a passion around it, and I know you have a passion as well. So appreciate you joining us, and I want to talk a little bit about managed accounts today. Your firm, and your startup goal path, you've done a lot of work in this space. Just for the benefit of the audience, let's start with a definition of what a managed account is. I think our folks know what it is, but let's get your definition of that.
Well, managed accounts are a tool in our quiver, I suppose you could say. It begins with your QDIA, starts with what is typically a target date fund. And then if you want a little bit more customization on a plan participant basis, you can move to a managed account. Most of the time in our industry, you're going to see advisors sit down one-on-one with a participant or use a questionnaire or wrap that with some piece of technology so they can customize that asset allocation a little bit for that retirement participant's goal. That's a broad definition of what a managed account is, but that's how we see it. Now, when we implement a managed account, we're usually packaging that with a piece of technology that's scalable across the whole plan. Our 10-year journey now, going on 10 years, has been 100% focused on creating better outcomes. And to do that, we know we need to serve as the QDIA. And we just can't do that without the right package of technology.
Yeah, I mean, certainly got to have a platform, and that's very important. And just in terms of the basics of managed accounts, just for the audience's benefit, the managed account service also typically has a fee. I'm not saying yours does, but although they typically have a fee that's on top of the investment expenses in the plan. Is that correct?
That's correct. And we hammer fees pretty hard. It's part of our culture and what we've been trained to do. And all of our IARs and partner advisory firms are familiar with the evidence that's coming out of Morningstar and 100 academic papers dating back to the 50s that shows just the small fee differential compounding over time. The math is powerful. So our belief is that we need to be in the bottom half or preferably the bottom quartile of fees as ranked by all target date solutions, which is why that technology package that supports those managed accounts is so crucial, because we just can't do it any other way. We have to be able to scale that and reach the participant in either an app-based or a financial wellness platform that they can come to know and understand and ultimately trust over time. The analogy I like to use is the Uber app. Participants have to be able to know where they are today, where they're going, and if there's a detour along the way, they need messaging that says, you're still on the fastest route. Don't worry.
Yeah, and so, I want to go back 10 years, and what led you? I mean, you've been a contributor and part of the 401k retirement landscape for quite some time, you and the firm, I should say. But what led you to tackle building your own platform and service to serve as a QDI? I just want to get your thought process here before we actually tackle the nuts and bolts of the product.
Love that question, and cut me off because I can go for 30 minutes on that one. But
we don't have 30 minutes. We've got about a total of 5 or 6 more minutes. But I'm not going to cut you off. I think it's interesting. I think people out there who are watching this would like to know the background as to why you do and did what you did.
I'll give you the short version. We believe in retirement as a social good. I mean, when I grew up with grandparents, my kids grew up with grandparents, I believe it's a special time of life. There's a lot of wisdom in the those years, and we want to help facilitate that goal. And it's really a belief in that goal that has driven us over the last 10 years. And we partnered with dimensional funds and Standard & Poor's and some other research heavyweights to do it. And we're just the practitioner that has delivered some of that into the market, largely based on Dr. Robert Merton's body of work that is life cycle finance. We know we have the ability to create better outcomes, and defined contribution as a system hasn't done it. The average participant at retirement has a balance of about $120,000. Mm-hmm. That'll create $5,000 in annual income in retirement, and that's getting nobody nowhere. So we know we need new solutions, and we've been putting those into the marketplace for going on a decade now, and that process has informed us that we need more than just good financial science. We need to address the behavior gap in a way that participants can understand, which is why now I'm out there preaching about wellness. You know, how do we meet the participant? How do we solve their needs? How do we get them to where they want to be? And that financial wellness journey started about 5 years ago, and we've been building the package of really the tech stack to facilitate that goal and creating a lifetime financial experience for the participant.
Yeah, and what you're describing, that financial wellness term, is very consistent with what we learned last week from Anastasia Krimkowski from Cerulli. I mean, this is a key trend that plan sponsors are thinking about. There's a lot on the line if people can't retire, in terms of, staying on the job and not having enough money and paying for healthcare. So it's very important that this issue gets tackled. Let's talk a little bit more about, you kind of you're still an advisory firm, but I would kind of also call you a hybrid in that you're also almost like a tech startup. I mean, is that a good way to define you and the folks at 2 West?
More and more so. My background's in finance and investing, and we are an advisory firm. But yes, more and more so, we are merging into that world of fintech. And I tell people I feel like I'm in the world of fintech now, because what we do is to try to meet the participant where they are. And we've partnered with Questus is a financial wellness platform. We believe that they're one of the best in the business. They've built a customizable approach to reaching that participant, and that allows us to market test and revise and make changes over time as we see different marketing campaigns having a better effect. And ultimately what we want is something that can meet their participant across their financial world, because one of the first problems that we see is actually getting participants into the plan. And then once they're into the plan, we need a budget, we need proper insurance, and we just have ancillary needs. And if we're not addressing those, then we're going to lose the participant. And if we lose the participant, we're going to not be able to facilitate the outcome. So it has to work inside and outside the plan. It has to address ancillary concerns. And then the whole package has to be circular, meaning that it has to inform the asset allocation on the backside, which is not something that most participants want to get involved in, but it's crucial to having the right financial engineering when it comes to outcomes.
And I would say, we've got about a minute left in the segment. I would say that more and more plan sponsors are warming to this concept of financial wellness. Obviously, I mentioned our interview last week. What has been the reception when you're out there talking to your either clients or prospects or just people, even participants, and they see this service? And you're talking about this. What's been the reception there?
Well, it's the hottest topic that we see at every conference that I go to, and sponsors know that they need this. 85% of sponsors say that they're interested in financial wellness, quote unquote, because it's the right thing to do. Then it's just a matter of which platform, what's the business model, how's it going to interface with our people, and who's bringing it to market. And the key differentiator there, and the direction that we're really pushing the industry in, is towards a fiduciary-minded wellness approach. I believe that it's really the advisor who should be the one bringing this to the sponsor and ultimately the participant, because they wear the fiduciary hat, and they're going to be able to oversee this from, I call it, from an outcomes perspective, so that we're not back to a mid-2000s type of approach where you have a lot of broker-dealers inside of 401k plans in a commissionable model. Nothing wrong with that model, but you've seen the industry really move towards the fiduciary-minded approach, and we're anxious to see that applied at the wellness level as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Vern, I want to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Vern about his thoughts around the Secure Act and where we go with retirement income. Stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network. Welcome back. We're talking to Vern Cushenberry. He's Chief Investment Officer and Managing Member for Two West Advisors. Vern, thanks so much for sticking around with us this morning.
Yeah, happy to do it, Jeff. Thanks again for having me.
So let's talk Secure Act and retirement income. Big news at the end of 2019 with the passage of the Secure Act. I think people had their fingers certainly crossed, toes crossed, that it happened, and it did happen. So now how are you and the folks at Two West, and even more importantly, how are you thinking about retirement income as it relates to Gold Path?
Well, now we have more options at our fingertips, which is great. I'm excited to see where the different solutions in the marketplace unfold. We're having conversations about potentially using deferred annuities, and then obviously we have annuities in plan today. But for the Secure Act to put a safe harbor around those is really getting the attention of a lot of sponsors. How the portability is going to work with that, and how we interface with various record keepers. These are all exciting conversations for us to have as we try to streamline a solution that'll work well and be scalable, not just across our platforms, but the network of advisors that we interface with and engage with. It's an exciting time to be in our business because it's really going to give us the opportunity to create better outcomes.
And you mentioned financial wellness and speaking with sponsors, and it is the hot topic. Has the conversation shifted when you're sitting there in those committee meetings, those quarterly meetings, or you're meeting with a client or you're meeting with a participant, thinking about, okay, what does this actually mean? What is our plan? How does our plan define retirement and retirement income? Is that shift occurring with your clients?
Clients want to know what the Secure Act is all about, which opens the door for us as the consultant to bring that conversation, which we're thankful for. We've been incorporating that inside of our investment policy statements for a long time, but it's kind of like our hands have been tied. Unless a sponsor is very paternalistic in their nature, they've been less willing to accommodate a true conversation about annuities. Now, we've been working with TIAA for a long time, and they've had annuities inside of their plans for going on 100 years. So most of their clients are just receptive to that message. So we have a lot of experience in bringing these products to market, and we understand the types of solutions and outcomes that they can create. So we're anxious to translate that into the 401k space.
And then what about the participant? You know, the knock on annuities is that sometimes people don't understand them, meaning the participant. And the participant may not really understand what their budgeting needs will be. You mentioned financial wellness thematically throughout our conversation. How much education does it take to not only educate the plan sponsor, but also get that participant engaged. I know you've designed the Uber, in your words, the Uber app of financial wellness, and I know that to be the case, but how difficult is it to get those people using that app thinking about what they're going to need in retirement? Because retirement can be down the road 5, 10, 20, 30 years. A lot of people don't even think a year in advance.
Well, I feel for participants because I don't imagine their life is too much like mine, too much different from mine, meaning you get me outside of my field of expertise, we can have a great conversation and relate, but then I'm going to go back to my day-to-day, sit down in front of my computer, answer 20 emails, and 2 months is going to go by and I'm going to be kind of left scratching my head thinking, okay, now what did Vern tell me about how this income solution is going to work in my retirement? And I think that's evidenced by some of the data that we see from participants. The vast majority of plan participants already think that there's going to be a steady stream of income when they hit retirement coming from their target date funds. And we all know that that's not the case in our industry. So this gives us the opportunity to actually do that. So if participants think that's what's going on, let's make sure that is what's going on, and we can do that with an annuity at the end of their investing lifespan in that decumulation phase. Now we have the ability to structure those accounts so that there is a real annuity there that's going to produce real income, and let's begin communicating that to them along the way. Let's take control of that marketing message.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's an area that just not has been focused on. And it doesn't also, Vern, it doesn't always have to be an annuity. You can actually structure investment products to, in a way, replicate annuity, right? Although you do not get the same guarantee that you would with the insurance wrap around it.
It's there's a lot of different ways to engineer this, and we have both models in effect today with our partners at TIA. We have an annuity that participants can use in the decumulation phase. We also have a liquid version of that in the QDIA, so we don't ever catch any participants off guard. That's one of the knocks that you see on annuities, is that if monies are put into them and a participant doesn't understand the liquidation factor, there can be some surprises. So we don't ever want to surprise anybody. So we can manage those competing commitments again through the financial wellness platform. But a lot of opportunity in this space to see what works. We're gonna design something in the lab, so to speak, from an academic standpoint, and then we're gonna take it out into the market and see how well it's adapted, and we're gonna revise that. And all thanks to the Secure Act, we're ultimately gonna get a step or two closer to that ultimate goal of creating better retirements for Americans.
Yeah, I think I think we're on the precipice. Maybe that's not the right wording, but we're about to take off. We're on the rocket launcher, ready to take off and really focus on this very important topic. And we know from the Secure Act that there actually are requirements to disclose lifetime income. So, and some providers do that, right? I mean, there are some providers that put some level of lifetime income on their quarterly statements, but it's not across the board available for everyone to see. Last question, Vern. I want to shift gears a little bit, but one of the key themes out there that people are talking about is privacy and data. Data is very important in our business because you got to be able to know who people are and know their age and their different attributes about them in order to help them, right? That's part of the whole suitability process that as an advisor you're supposed to go through. So you need some basic data. But what are your thoughts around confidentiality and privacy and all the things that we're hearing with all these other industries around data breaches and cybersecurity?
Well, you asked me about sponsor receptiveness. So this is one of the most common questions that we get, and it's one that we think a lot about. And we need very smart partners to help us out with this, because like I mentioned, our background is as an investment advisor and not as in data science. But we are very purposeful about communicating to sponsors that they need to be thinking about this, and they need to be thinking about what that data is used for. So there's a lot of business models out there that are built on the sharing of this data, meaning that we can bring financial wellness services into the plan at little cost, are based on harvesting that data and sending it out to who knows where for offers to come back into the participants for auto loans and bank loans and credit score, and you name it. We're going to be marketing services back to those participants, which is why I use this term fiduciary-minded wellness. We need to be shopping those services from the standpoint of a fiduciary so that we can come to know and understand those business models and communicate it back to the sponsor so they can have some level of awareness with regard to what's going on inside their plan.
Yeah, we certainly know this is a part that, a topic that from a litigation point of view that people are thinking about because the recent Shell Oil case really addresses this as well. Well, Vern, pleasure talking with you, learning more about the business that you are going after and working on. And we look forward to having you back on the program very soon.
Likewise, Jeff. Anytime. Thanks.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Hey, have a financial topic or someone of interest that you think we should talk to? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the news in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, and so much more, check out today's edition of The Morning Pulse. So until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Keep on saving and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Waiting here for you to take and drink of. But if you're tired of the same